When the game on the line, you can't fold and you can't bend. Y'all be playing it safe and I be going for the win. Remember back when they was doubting on the kid. Now they tuned in cause my game too legit.
What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake and Kyle coming at you together today because it's time, Kyle, to start updating some rankings. We established the baseline for all the rankings back in May. Well, now it's July, right? It's past July 4th, so it's probably time to update the rankings, Kyle. We're going to kick it off here with our top 12 quarterbacks today.
The last time we did rankings, I was 32, and now I'm 33. So that's just how long it was since we did rankings. I'm still nice. 10 years your elder, but anyway, moving on. Top quarterbacks, top 12. This is why
I don't do these shows with you.
This is why
it's better to do them alone. Anyway, because you're going to start off by giving me a hard time. I'm sure at some point here in the next couple of days, we go through all of our rankings, the bald spot's going to come up. Everything's going to happen. Trust me, I'm expecting it at this point. But we're talking about quarterbacks today and the guys who deliver the cleanest balls. Well, we got to plug Manscaped right here because this is where you need to head, fellas. If you're heading into the summer months here, you're heading down to the beach, you're going down to the community pool, whatever it is, you need to make sure you don't look like Chewbacca in a Speedo out there. All right, so head over to manscaped.com. Get yourself the lawnmower right now, the Lawnmower 4.0. The perfect package is out there for you to get you taken care of here this summer. And use our promo code HEADLINERS, all caps at checkout. Receive 20% off your order and free shipping. So head over there as soon as this video is over and get yourself taken care of. But now, Kyle, it's time to dive into the guys who deliver clean balls on a weekly basis, the quarterbacks. And do we need to spend a whole lot of time at number one? Because
nope.
Should it be anywhere else but Patrick Mahomes at this point?
Mr. Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. Wow, that was quite the introduction for Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, I mean, no arguments here. I don't think very many people think that anybody else deserves to be on the top of this list, even though there are a few names that are behind him now that I would say are closing the gap. It's not a huge gap. And we already differ at number two. Number two, you have Lamar Jackson. That's pretty high for Lamar Jackson. I have Josh Allen, Bills Mafia in the house. But Lamar Jackson at number two is pretty spicy, Kyle.
You know, here's the thing. Is it really that spicy? I mean, are we going to see another performance like we saw from him in 2019? Probably not. I mean, those were some pretty high standards to try and catch back up to again, but they've added some offensive weapons for him. I mean, he's going to be running the ball on the ground again. This is still a run-heavy team. Hopefully, he's maybe cleaned up a couple of the things in the passing game going into, full year number 3 at this point. So I just, like you said, some guys are starting to kind of close the gap. And when you look at, I've got Lamar Jackson at 2, but then my 3 and 4 are the same as your 2 and 3. The one thing about all 3 of these guys that I have right here in a row, they're all going to offer you a little bit of something on the ground.
That's what I'm talking about. Like me a little bit of something there on the side. I got Lamar Jackson a few spots lower. I got him still at number 7. I don't dislike Lamar Jackson whatsoever. I still am of the mindset, though, that I want to see him take that step forward in the passing game. I think we're just so reliant on the rushing that if we don't get it, kind of like we didn't get at the beginning of 2020, it's kind of leaves him in limbo. He's still super safe. He's still going to score, 18 plus points a week. Easy. It's just, I don't know about that ceiling until he can take that step forward. I have Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. As I went through all of the safest series here this past week, it really opened my eyes to the Buffalo Bills. This is a really good football team once again. They didn't lose anything. They lost John Brown. Well, they brought in Emmanuel Sanders. So does it really change? It's kind of the same thing. Josh Allen is going to be primed for another huge year once again in Buffalo.
And really is the downgrade from Brown to Gabriel Davis on the outside, is that deep threat that big?
No. I love me some Gabriel Davis.
Yeah, honestly, at this point, I got Patrick Mahomes at 1, but then like my 2, A, B, and C is Jackson, Allen Murray. I mean, all these guys right there in the row. And, I was not a Josh Allen fan coming out. I did not think that he was going to be able to come in and start right away, but 100% credit to him for really working on his craft and working to get better. and a lot of credit to that Bills coaching staff. He is in the perfect place right now. This is really kind of a match made in heaven, like Belichick and Brady was for so many years.
Yeah, they could be good for a long time there in Buffalo. So you have Josh Allen at number 3, one spot lower. Number 3 is where I have Kyler Murray, who you have at number 4. So like you said, we're all right there in this order. Kyler Murray, once again, I kind of look at him like you kind of look at at Lamar Jackson, right? You have the rushing upside. He's got the weapons to throw to now with, still has DeAndre Hopkins. They brought in AJ Green. Does he have anything left? They drafted Rondell Moore. They have Andy Isabella. Christian Kirk is still there. I mean, there's tons of options in Arizona, and we know they're going to throw the ball a lot. I love that upside of the potential rushing ability of Kyler Murray. That's why I got him up there a little bit higher, and we've seen him produce in the passing game already. So that's why I got him a little bit higher than Lamar Jackson. So you have him at 4, where I have Justin Herbert. And I have Justin Herbert pretty high. I have him at number 4, which I guess you could say is a little spicy. I am just all in on this offense this year. I love the potential in his second year, a full offseason, which he did not get last year, in this offense to really get that timing with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. We know about Austin Eckler in the backfield. We could be seeing huge numbers once again from him in LA.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I'm looking at when it comes to Justin Herbert is, it's going to be a great year. And we look at it too, and it's like, oh, you've got Lamar Jackson at 2, and Jake's got him at 7, and he's got Herbert at 4, Justin. It's the top 12, top 14, top 16 is so deep this year that really, especially within the top 12, all of these guys could only be separated by maybe 10, 15, 20 points on the season, which when you break it down to per week, when you've got 17 games now in a season, that's over a point a game. So yeah. It's really not that big of a separation, with Justin Herbert. Love him. Love the offense. Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler. Yeah, we do lose Hunter Henry. Don't love that for him. They bring in Jared Cook, so hopefully that can help a little bit. But maybe just a little bit of like a sophomore slump, not a huge one, but just kind of that little bit of a learning curve for him. I think that there was a lot of teams when they watched tape of him, like of his Oregon tape, because that wasn't a system that really fit him well. They kind of looked at him as that type of a quarterback, and now they have a full season with him in this system. There might be some times this year where he gets, some fits now and again, but nothing concerning for me to the point where I'm like, I'm out on him at all.
Yeah, big time ceiling, big time potential. Number 5,
boy.
That's right. He's got to feed the boy right there. Number 5, this is where you have our boy Dak Prescott, who we've been on this bandwagon since it wasn't a cool thing to do. Yeah. I have Tom Brady, old man GOAT, at number 5. Honestly, the more I see this guy, I hated Tom Brady in New England. Like, it was just irritating in New England. And now he's like one of the coolest dudes ever, because like he's out there on social media and he's tweeting and he's making fun of Aaron Rodgers, and we have the golf matches with Phil Mickelson. It's cool to see him outside of New England, because the guy is hilarious and it's making things happen. But on the football field, what has been taken away from Tom Brady? He literally lost nothing from arguably the best offense at the end of the year. They clicked second half of the year. They finally figured it out. They took it all the way through the Super Bowl, and now they get a whole season of it. Yeah, I love some Tom Brady. The way they can protect him with a solid offensive line and all those weapons. Nothing against Dak, because I got him one spot lower at 6, but Tom Brady for me is number 5.
Yeah, Tom Brady could win an MVP this year at the age
wouldn't
of
surprise me.
72. So congratulations to him on that. But here's the thing. They're going to throw. The one thing we know watching Tampa last year, especially if you remember like that Detroit game towards the end of the season, they're not afraid to put the pedal down and stay on it until the end of the game. So, they'll keep throwing it. The only thing is Brady is getting older, and this is a really, really good team with a really, really good defense. What if we get into like the end of the third, fourth quarter, and now all of a sudden Tampa Bay's up by 3 touchdowns, and you have such a good backfield with Ronald Jones. It sucks for fantasy purposes, but Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, Keyshawn Vaughn, Gio Bernard, that's just a backfield that you can roll out there consistently and put anybody on the field at any given time. So what if they turn to them a little bit? That's my only concern with Brady, is that happens where we see that a little bit more this season than we did last season. But for those first couple of quarters, halfway through the third, balls to the wall. Let's score touchdowns, put up as many points as possible.
And that's where I kind of see that Aaron Rodgers effect with Tom Brady, because Aaron Rodgers was somebody who didn't need all those pass attempts last year. He was going out there and getting 3 touchdowns by halftime. He'd have 250 and 3 touchdowns at halftime and be good to go. So that's what we're hoping. That's what I'm hoping for Brady. Where you have Dak here coming back off the injury, I don't think any of us are overly concerned about that. In my opinion, the only hurdle that he needs to really overcome on the football field is going to be the trust aspect of it, to drop back and put pressure on it. I think once he overcomes that, there's not going to be any limitations. And we've already seen the numbers that this guy can put up with a defense that I will still say is average to below average, at least in the secondary, where they could give up some points on a weekly basis. They're going to have to continue to throw all 4 quarters like we saw him do it last year.
You calling that defense average makes me feel like you brought a lot of report cards home with D's on it and tried to convince your mother that
I did. I mean, if I could verbally use a hyphen like Chris Chouse, I would do that, because it was average to below average. It was kind of like a range. But yeah, I mean,
I'm not even giving them average. That defense is going to be poop. It's going to be poopy this year. I mean, they're going to have probably a decent pass rush. They're going to have maybe the best linebackers in the game, but their secondary is probably going to be trash. They're not going to be able to stop anybody. So we know that Dak's going to throw it a lot. The only thing we got to see more of is that touchdown pace has to kind of catch up a little bit, because we saw lots of attempts, lots of completions, lots of yards, but those touchdowns kind of lagged a little bit because, they get into the red zone and we start seeing a lot of Zeke. So just want to see some more of those touchdowns, but we know the volume is going to be there. I mean, outside of that injury, Dak might be one of the safest quarterbacks this year. We know he's going to throw.
Yep, number 6 is where I have Dak. This is where you have Aaron Rodgers, Mr. Discount Double Check. I have him a couple spots lower, and honestly, I had him right about the same range where you have him, and then I think my brain's messing with me, Kyle. Like, I don't have anything scientific to prove otherwise why I dropped him a couple spots, other than I watched part of the match with him and Tom Brady and Bryson DeChambeau and Phil Mickelson, and Aaron Rodgers' inability to commit to anything 2021 just worries me. Like, in my heart of hearts, I know the guy's going to play, and he should be up here in the top 5 or 6. But when I see him on TV, I don't get that warm fuzzy, because he gives you nothing to make it seem like anything good is happening, and it worries me a little bit. Now, obviously, if he plays, he's in Green Bay, dude's a stud, 100%. I'm just worried, Kyle.
I mean, my biggest concern for him is not necessarily whether or not he's going to play. It's, I mean, are they going to have to throw the ball this year as much as they have in the past? I've got him at 6 just because, did I doubt him last year? Yeah. Here's the thing. I'm not going to doubt him again this year, so I'm going to leave him right here. There is part of me, though, that feels like he could be anywhere from maybe the 6 range down to like where 10, where Stafford is. And then we bump, I don't know, can they see all the rankings right now?
Not right now, Kyle. No.
Okay. You can't see all the rankings right now. I'm looking at them. You're not. But we bump him down to 10 and we bump everyone right behind him up 1, 2. So I think somewhere in that range, because, I mean, if Jones is just killing it this year, I mean, and A.J. Dillon is tearing it up on the ground too, they might be running the ball a little bit more than what we've seen. But again, too, we've seen pissed off Aaron Rodgers just want to go out there and throw and throw and throw, and maybe he's going to want to do the same thing. So,
dude, he gave the finger to the NFL last year. I'm sure he could do it again. Number 7, this is where I have Lamar Jackson. We already spoke on him. This is where you have Ryan Tannehill, which is hot. I mean, this is like spicy, but I like it because when we did these rankings earlier in the offseason, I didn't have Ryan Tannehill even in my top 12. Now they've gone out and added Julio Jones. That changes things. So I have him a couple spots lower than you, but Ryan Tannehill, to me, may not be that sexy name, right? Because he's not the Patrick Mahomes, the Lamar Jackson, the Dak Prescotts, the Kyler Murrays. But this dude this year could put up borderline. It would not surprise me if he finishes inside the top 5. And he doesn't even have that rushing upside like the others. He's just so efficient. The offense is just built for him. Yep. If he could succeed with Corey Davis, oh my God, what is he going to do with Julio Jones alongside of A.J. Brown? I'm pumped.
The key word that you use there is efficiency. Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing about Ryan Tannehill that he has been since he went to Tennessee. I'm just calling myself out here. I was not high on Tannehill last season. I was worried about him because they were so efficient the prior year that I didn't think that they were going to be able to keep that up. but they did. Him and AJ Brown, that efficiency did not go anywhere. Once I see it a couple of times, give me 2 seasons of it, and I'm like, okay, this is something that they can keep up. The reason he was lower for us last time is because they lost Corey Davis, they lost
And
John
Johnny Smith.
Smith,
Yep.
and they didn't replace him with anybody. Well, they went and replaced him with Julio Jones, and that is as big of an upgrade as you can possibly get. So now you take that efficiency and you have 2 guys that can really beat anybody on the field anywhere at any time. And they've got Derrick Henry in the backfield that they're going to have to account for. I mean, even if because people are going to argue, oh, Derrick Henry is going to get so many touches, it's a run first offense. It doesn't matter. They've been so efficient in the passing game the last couple of years that Tannehill may only have to throw the ball 20 times a game, but he's still going to have well over 250 some odd yards. He's going to throw for 3 touchdowns in a game, and that's all they're going to write.
Yep. I mean, that's what the great part about Julio and AJ Brown is. It's the yards after the catch potential with those guys.
Yep.
They're not going to be guys that, run a 10-yard curl and lay down on the first down marker. No, they're going to stretch the field. They're going to find big holes. They're going to run a 5-yard slant and take it to the house. So, I mean, it's going to be fun to watch the Titans here this year. Number 8, this is where I had Aaron Rodgers. Like we said, a few spots lower. You have Tom Brady, who we spoke on. Number 9, I have Russell Wilson. This is where you have Justin Herbert. For me, Russell Wilson is just reliable. You know what I mean? I think we saw him come out last year and Russ cooked the first half of the season, was winning people fantasy matchups every single week, and then all of a sudden they kind of just abandoned it, and it just changed in Seattle. They come out this year and say, hey, we want to run a little bit more. They brought back Chris Carson for a year. I'm not buying that they're just going to run the ball. They got DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett there. They're going to do something with it. Plus, they brought in Gerald Everett as a tight end. We know Russ loves his tight ends. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him take a step forward in efficiency, maybe less pass attempts, maybe less yards, but more touchdowns this year. And that's something that excites me a little bit for Russell Wilson.
And I don't know what to make of Seattle, to be honest with you. It's
a mystery, kind of.
It's one that I'm really trying to pay close attention to in the offseason, because I don't love Tyler Lockett this year. I wrote about him in the draft guide. DK Metcalf, I mean, is he still top 10 for me? He is, but he was wildly inconsistent last year, and I don't think that's talked about nearly enough. And that's directly tied to Russell Wilson. So are we going to get the passing offense of the Seattle Seahawks that came out in the first half of 2020, or the passing offense that came out in the second half of 2020? Because if you were to ask me, Kyle, how would this offense look in 2020? I would have put it backwards. Not a whole lot of training camp, didn't really get the off-season programs, nothing, in terms of the preseason. Slow start to the season, and then all of a sudden they pick it up in the second half, and it was reverse for them. So that's my concern. And now you've got Pete Carroll coming out and saying, oh, we want to run the ball more. Why? Why? Let the offense run through Wilson. There's no reason for you to take him out of this and not let him be the X factor that he is. So that's my concern, is I don't know what I'm getting from that offense this year.
Yep, for sure. And you got him a couple spots lower down there. Number 10, we agree on. We both have Matt Stafford of the LA Rams here.
Matthew Stafford.
And he is trending upwards, right? I mean, the more and more the offseason progresses here, the more and more love we are getting from Matthew Stafford in a Sean McVay offense with arguably the best overall offense he's ever had. He's had better individuals at certain positions at times, but when you look at the overall offense, this could be one of the best he's ever had in his career. So we haven't really maybe seen his ceiling, and we've seen 5,000 yards in the season from Matthew Stafford before. So that's exciting to me, because we saw Jared Goff, who basically, in the offseason, he eats Crayolas. That's what Jared Goff does. He's just one of those guys that wears a helmet, licks a window, eats a Crayola. Let's just be realistic. Sorry, he's on your Lions, Kyle. But now we get Matthew Stafford, okay?
Not my Lions.
and he gets Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee and Cam Akers and an improved offensive line. This is going to be exciting. As long as he can stay upright, he could be putting up some big numbers.
I think the one thing that we've seen about Matthew Stafford in terms of his evolution as a quarterback is that when he had Calvin Johnson, I mean, he just forced the ball to him consistently, and it worked. But then when he didn't have Calvin Johnson, we saw some iffy numbers there, And then now over the past couple of years, when he's had Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones, when he had Jones Galladay and he had Golden Tate, when he had all these weapons, he really learned to spread the ball around a little bit more, look through all of his options and not really rely on that one big time play. And that's made him a better quarterback. Some of the numbers haven't been as gaudy as they once were, but he's become better as he's gotten older and learned how to really spread the ball around. And now he's got probably the best offensive mind that he's ever played with. I say probably, and that's not true because it is. He has. This is the probably is not the right word. He is playing with the best offensive mind he's ever had. And he's got the opportunity now with not weapons that are overrated weapons, but guys that are just consistent, that just do the job. The one thing for me is just, hopefully the offensive line is still good. The offensive line keeps them upright. And then with the run game, it's just going to be a really balanced attack. He's got deep weapons. He's got guys that can work over the middle of the field. He's got guys that can make plays after the catch. I mean, the sky really is the limit. I mean, Stafford in this offense, he could go as high as probably 5 for me.
Yep. Wouldn't surprise me if he's there at year's end. Number 11 is where I had Ryan Tannehill, a few spots lower. We already talked about him, and you had Russell Wilson. And then last guy here, number 12, we agree once again. This is where we have Joey B, Joe Burrow of the
baby.
The Cincinnati Bengals. Now, everybody will comment on this video, and I'll probably ignore most of them that say this. They all want to say, well, his offensive line is so bad, he's not going to be able to stay upright. He's not going to have time to throw. And I understand that he does not have a great offensive line. But at some point you have to recognize, if we recognize that as dudes on YouTube, you don't really think that his head coaching staff recognizes that also, and they're not scheming up a lot more quick routes, a lot more hot reads for him to make things happen quick. Not everything's going to be a 7-step drop and let Jamar Chase run a go route every time. That's not going to be the game plan there. No, they're going to get these guys the ball in space quick. They're going to utilize pick plays, however they got to do to get these guys the ball quick, because they know that. They know their offensive line isn't great. It's average to below average, Kyle, is what I will say the offensive line is. But with Jamar Chase, who he already has a rapport with Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, who we were all loving coming into the season, that is arguably that's a great top 3 right there. I mean, you got a top 3 that can compete with a lot of other teams in the NFL, especially in their own division, right? Look at the Steelers. The Steelers, they run out every week. Juju and Claypool and Deontay Johnson. It's going to be a lot of passing. They're going to be trailing a lot, and they're going to have to throw. That's why you got Joe Burrow here at 12.
Yeah, I think to begin the year, we might see a much more balanced attack just to get him out there feeling good after the surgery and everything like that. Then maybe as the season goes on, we see maybe some of that passing attempts pick up and things of that nature. But like you said, the key words here is that rapport that he has with guys already. I mean, him and Jamar Chase from their time together in college, obviously those two guys absolutely rocked at their last season, or his last season there. And then T. Higgins and Joe Burrow had a great connection before the injury last year as well. You throw in Tyler Boyd, who honestly has never had to be the slot guy, but I absolutely love him in the slot. I think that's his best spot to play. And now he gets to sit there and he doesn't have to see cornerback 1 or 2 coverage anymore. He's going to be open all over the place. They don't have a tight end, but it doesn't matter. These 3 guys are going to be on the field on a consistent basis. It's going to help open things up for Joe Mixon a little bit. And when you have, here's the thing too about the offensive line. This is going to make the video a little bit longer. I apologize. Here's the thing about the offensive line, because last year I did a Patreon video on it. And I said the reason the offensive line was losing so much was because they were consistently sending extra defenders. And that is when the offensive line would get overwhelmed at the beginning of the year. You're not going to be able to do that because you've got these 3 wide receivers that are going all over the place, meaning you're going to have to leave guys in single coverage a majority of the time. You're not going to do that. You're not going to be able to bring a safety up into the box because you're going to have 2 guys back there to help out, because a corner slot is not going to be able to keep up, or a cornerback playing in the slot is not going to be able to keep up with Tyler Boyd there. Defenders like the linebackers, they're going to have to play back in zone more. They're not going to be able to blitz as much. So even if you comment down below and your argument is the offensive line isn't that great, it doesn't matter because they're not going to face as much pressure this year as they did last year.
Yep. And that's the biggest difference, right? It's not All right, well, Kyle's out. He's done for the day. Dropping the mic and he's out, and which is perfect timing because we've made it through our top 12 now, and this is just gonna, something we do with all these positions. We're gonna go through our top 24 running backs, wide receivers, our top 12 tight ends. So make sure after you finish this video, go over to the channel, check it out, see if those videos have dropped yet, because you want to make sure that you stay up to date with all these rankings. And here's the deal, right? It's still early. It's still July. You can't get upset with July,
but it is still early.
Yeah, it's still early. I mean, once we get into August, when teams start drafting, a lot can happen in the next 5 weeks or so. Make sure you stay up to date with all these videos, because as things change, we will continue to update you and give you as much information as we possibly can. But do us a favor in the meantime, hit that like button down below, because that really helps us out here on YouTube, and we greatly appreciate that support.
If I had to think of an analogy about where we are in the off season, I would say we're at that point of the off season where we're getting really, really excited. So we need to start thinking about like,
I should have cut him off and not let him finish, because now he's ruined the end of the show. Hopefully you've stuck around past that. I apologize. My deepest condolences to you and your ears. Have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you later.